Good evening. Finally decided. Party leaders decide dates for the debate on the report of Bond Commission and the serious acts of fraud and corruption. Standing order. Speaker Karu Jayasuriya refuses permission to parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake to make a statement in parliament over allegations. Later on, he distributed the same to the media. Economy on the right track. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe speaking on foreign investment says local businesses are a priority.
In the next decade, let's open out. And once we open out, don't ever be frightened. The government finally wants Sri Lankan business.
Come out and vote. CMC mayoral candidate Rosi Senanayake highlights the significance of the local government election.
And do not ever think of abstaining simply because you have a grievance with the national government.
And in sports in Sri Lanka, with all its glory, 2018 FIFA World Cup trophy visits the island first during its world tour for over 50 destinations. Once again, a good evening. You are watching First at 9 here on Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. In the next 30 minutes, I'll be taking you through all the major stories from Sri Lanka and from around the globe. So let's begin with our lead story. Party leaders today decided to hold a full-day debate on the reports of the Commission of Inquiry probing the central bank bond issuance and the Commission of Inquiry into serious acts of frauds and corruption on the 20th and the 21st of February. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Parliament rejected the request of former Minister Ravi Karunanayake to make a special statement in Parliament based on the report of the Commission of Inquiry that probes central bank bond issuance.
We received the report of the Bond Commission. The President made a statement yesterday that there were 6,000 pages in the report. But in the report we received, there were less than 6,000 pages. There won't be a debate if the pages are missing. It's you who say the pages are missing. I spoke to the Secretary of the President yesterday and let me repeat the response. There is a large number of documents that were handed over to the Commission and I made a request to hand them over to me as box files or piled books. Yet I still didn't receive them. As it has been informed to me, he will be able to hand over 3 such piles to me. If so, I have informed the Secretary of the Commission to send them to the relevant law enforcing agencies based on priorities. Honourable Speaker, the Secretary to the President clearly has not fulfilled his responsibility. Therefore, ask him to attend the party leaders' meeting because we need to ask him this. Whoever says the report was not given to any parliamentarian before being presented in the Parliament.
In the meantime, parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake requested to make a special statement on the final report of the Bond Commission under parliamentary privileges.
I don't understand as to how, when the privileges are impacted, as to how this parliament does not provide an opportunity to explain that. And I've given a very detailed statement to you. So I am lost for answer after 24 years in parliament. I see an absolute case of injustice that is being meted out on the preliminary basis. I must be told as to why it is not. And the answer that was given was a flimsy answer, apparently what your staff had mentioned.
As you said, this won't fall within the privileges or personal explanations, and it's very clear. That's why we said it is difficult to give an opportunity today. Under the Right to Information Act, I bought a book paying 5,000 rupees, and now I'm unable to read out what is in it. I might get a chance if I was tough. That's what happens in the Parliament. If I won't be given the opportunity to read it out, I will send this to media to broadcast it to people. Then the people will be able to get to know what is in it. We think that it is fair to give him the opportunity to make the statement so that we can know any information he has got as he claims to have. After defaming me so far, saying I don't know neither Sinhala, English nor Tamil, you are trying to pity me now. I don't want it from you because I will rather have it from innocent people. Bandula Gunawadana is the only parliamentarian who went to the Bond Commission and apologized.
Although he was unable to make a statement in Parliament, parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake issued the statement to the media this evening.
In his statement to media, parliamentarian Ravi Karunanayake says he has the right to prove his innocence as there is no one else in the political arena whose character has been subjected to such defamation with the release of the report by the Commission of Inquiry into Bonds. He adds that he has become the target of a planned and brutal political endeavour only because he stood for good governance. The parliamentarian goes on to say that the President's national address on the 3rd of January this year, after receiving the report of the Bond Commission, is the foundation of his special statement today. Although the President stated that the report proposes a case should be filed against him under the Bribery and Corruption Act, Karunanayake says it only mentions to take action against him if and only such an offence was committed. He further says he is not at fault, as mentioned in the 838th page of the report, because it is stated that the Commission accepts it was just and reasonable for the then Finance Minister to wish to bring yield rates down since the former government had maintained it as a principle. Karunanayake in his statement said that the Bribery and Corruption Commission should consider and take necessary measures if he had a considerable profit by paying taxes for the house he and his family lived in, which was owned by Walt & Rowe Associates, a company owned by Perpetual Capital Holdings. The parliamentarian questions as to where in the report does it mention that a case should be filed against him based on bribery and corruption allegations. He goes on to say that although the statement written for the President to be read out on the 3rd of January said a case should be filed against him for giving false evidence before the Commission, the report of the Commission doesn't mention that he gave false evidence, and it only mentions that it recommends the Attorney General and the others who are responsible to consider whether the evidence given is accurate and if so to decide whether legal measures should be taken against him. It also says that if he gave false evidence before the Commission should have initiated legal measures against him under Clause 10 of the Commissions Act at the moment itself. The statement further says, although the 828th page of the report mentions that he was unable to produce any evidence that he repaid Walt & Rowe Associates, Ravi Karunanayake insists that the Commission did not attempt to look into the receipts he provided, thus accusing him afterwards. The parliamentarian in his statement says it is surprising that the report of the Commission doesn't mention the evidence given by the landlady of the house. He concludes the statement by saying he is of the view that those who studied the report and prepared the special statement for the President have changed the facts in a subtle way, and that incorrect facts being mentioned in the statement made by the President should be investigated.
Indonesian President Joko Widodo arrived in Sri Lanka with a delegation of 50 members on a two-day official visit. Foreign Affairs Minister Tilak Marapana welcomed the President of Indonesia at the Bandar Naik International Airport in Karunayake this morning. The Indonesian President, who arrived in the country upon the invitation of President Maithripala Sirisena, was hosted to a ceremonial welcome with a guard of honour and a 21-gun salute at the Presidential Secretariat this evening. Bilateral discussions between the two heads of state also took place just after the ceremonial welcome. While several memorandum of understanding are due to be inked between the two countries during the visit. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will also have discussions on economic, trade and investment cooperation with President Widodo at a breakfast meeting tomorrow. Let's move on to the latest with regard to the upcoming local government elections. The second phase of postal voting for the upcoming local government elections is due to commence tomorrow. Government officials attached to education offices, Sri Lanka Transport Board, as well as police and security forces personnel participating in election-related duties will cast their ballots tomorrow and the day after. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Police has obtained 2 court orders preventing protests and rallies from being held in Colombo within the day tomorrow.
We received a complaint today that in several urban areas, candidates were using firecrackers during visits and campaign meetings. We request all political parties to refrain from engaging in such activities. And postal voters can raise their opposition if there are CCTV cameras set up in polling stations, because such equipment are banned. We discussed various issues such as whether we should count the votes separately or collect them all to be counted at one time. We will arrest them. We have already obtained 2 court orders from Colombo Fort and Nugegoda Magistrate Courts banning such protests and rallies.
Referring to claims that certain pages of the report by the Commission of Inquiry on Bonds are missing, President Maithripala Sirisena says that nobody should make false assertion and the matter will be dealt personally by him in order to bring the corrupt before justice. The President said this speaking at a public gathering in Colombo yesterday.
A public gathering organised by the 4th United Businessmen's Association was held under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena yesterday.
We presented both the report by the Commission of Inquiry as well as a report by Pressifact to Parliament. This is the only government that was able to make a daunting impact on corrupt politicians. Those who criticize the bond report now earlier said the Presidential Commission would be unsuccessful. Some say now that certain pages of the report are missing. That is not at all the case. There are a few confidential documents that are needed in order to file cases against those who are responsible. That is why these documents have not been made public yet. No one needs to be concerned over anything. I will personally take the responsibility of continuing what was begun with the appointment of Presidential Commissions of Inquiry.
Meanwhile, addressing a public gathering in Bakamuna area in Alahara, the President reacted to allegations of war heroes being haunted by the government.
Former President Rajapaksa is calling us hunters of war heroes. Who actually did the hunting? It was him who took away powers and the possession of the greatest war hero Sarath Fonseca after he contested the presidential election in 2010. I, on the other hand, was the one who saved the Triforces from the international courts.
United National Party mayoral candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council, Rosie Senanaika, calls on the public to use their ballot at the upcoming local government polls despite grievances with the national government. The former parliamentarian made this remark addressing a public gathering for women in Colombo yesterday.
The port city is definitely going to be a smart city, an exciting city. It might be one of the world's best smart cities.
When the port city becomes one of the smart cities, we cannot be its instrument. We have to make sure Colombo is in par with development level of the port city.
The environment is one of the key issues that I'll be looking into when we talk about a clean city, a beautiful city. A lot of people consider this election as a very insignificant election. We needn't go to the polls for this election. People think that national elections, presidential elections are important, but a local council election is not so important. This is the most important election for us personally, for all of us. This is the only election that is important to us because this is the only institution that serves us on a daily basis, whether it's collecting our garbage, whether it's doing our streets, or whether it's keeping our environment clean, giving us the street lighting, when we have sewerage lines, wastewater issues. It is the municipality, your rates, your plans. On a daily basis, this institution serves you. So it is your civic right and civic duty to go to the polls and vote for the people that you think that would serve you the best. And do not ever think of abstaining simply because you have a grievance with the national government. Please consider this election as a very important election.
More on the election, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa alleges that although the Commission of Inquiry that probed bond issuance fulfilled its duty properly, the Commission of Inquiry that investigated into serious financial frauds and corruption has been political in its duties. The former president made this remark addressing a rally at Pol Pitigame in Kurunegala today.
I think the world's largest bank robbery took place in Sri Lanka. As they wanted to cover it up, they brought a commission on serious financial frauds and corruption or something like that. The report of that commission was finalized a year ago. The evidence and recommendations were made by a committee led by JVP leader Anurukumara Dissanayake. All those were petitions. There is a big difference between these two commissions. Evidence were collected for this commission just like collecting complaints made at police stations. This was a political game, but the Bond Commission was properly formed. Commission members included justices from the Supreme Court. Now Ravi Karunayaka is caught. Today he was trying to make a statement in Parliament and the Speaker did not allow him to do so. He has no right to do that. These days on television channels there's a lot said against me. President blames me, Prime Minister blames me, but children blame the President.
The leader of the JVP, Anurukumara Dissanayake, states that neither the President, Prime Minister nor the former President can give assurance that they will put an end to corruption. He stated this at a public rally in Akurasa.
None of them can say they can stop frauds from taking place. Can Mahinda Rajapaksa get on a podium and say that he is going to stop frauds from taking place? No. If Mahinda is to stop fraudulent acts, then when someone screams from afar, Basil, Basil, he will just keep quiet and sit down. Can Ranil Wickremesinghe say he is going to stop fraudulent acts in this country? No, even they are fraudsters. If by chance they do say they are going to put an end to illegal activities, then they will talk about the bond issue from afar. Now Maithripala is acting like he is the new hero against corruption. I heard him say recently that he will send fraudsters who stole from the people to jail. I was honestly watching it on TV, waiting to see if the people on stage were going to be taken to jail. Are fraudsters going to catch fraudsters? What one says when they are about to sit down in the president's chair is not what they do when they sit on the president's chair. This is not the first president to do that.
Meanwhile, politicians express various views ahead of the upcoming local government election.
A new act is to be brought into the parliament. It seeks to allow the Prime Minister to get 10% of the debt from the 80% of country's entire debt. Prime Minister could get this debt from anywhere at any time. Not even the central bank has to know about it. He'd be able to take debts at any interest he wishes. To date, we have to pay debt installments of over 4 billion rupees just for the next year. 80% of that installment is the result of debt taken by the government. These two are destroying the country. We'd be able to establish a UNP government if you cast your votes for the win of at least 65 to 70% of the Pradesh Sabhas. SLFP has been divided now. It took Mahinda Rajapaksa only 3 years to do so. First defended should be the Prime Minister when it comes to the bond issue. Instead of making special statements in Parliament, it's time MP Ravi Karunanaike discussed matters with his lawyers. If the Attorney General's department take fair actions, then he will be proven guilty in the court. These are false statements by those who are appearing before courts for cases on corruption. None of the pages are missing from the bond report. Can a commission of inquiry do such a thing? The report is a complete one.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
Wildlife officers caught a crocodile that entered Nelukolama in Vavuniya in search of food. The crocodile is reported to be 7 feet in length. A haul of Kerala cannabis worth over 10 million rupees was recovered by the Northern Naval Command in Mardan Keni Talayadi last evening. The 110 kilograms of cannabis was seized following a tip-off received by the intelligence staff attached to the Northern Naval Command, which will be handed over to the police for further investigations. A person was arrested with a tractor while engaging in illegal sand mining in Malavoy in Galevala Divisional Secretariat. The racketeer was arrested based on a tip-off received by the police. The students of the Institute of Indigenous Medicine of the University of Colombo engaged in a protest in front of the institute today. The protest was organized based on several demands, including providing electricity for facilities for women's dormitories.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back everyone on to Business News. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the government is resolute on an outward-looking economy in order to develop Sri Lankan businesses on a global scale. He said this speaking at the annual general meeting of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce last evening.
One of the aims of our outward-looking economy is to develop Sri Lankan businesses on a global scale. Let's open out. And once you open out, don't ever be frightened. The government finally wants Sri Lankan businesses. So let us now focus on this development. Politics is necessary in a democratic country, but it must not in any way hinder the development. Secondly, foreign investment is never a hindrance to growth. We don't suffer because foreign investment comes. One of the first projects being planned is another oil refinery. How many more will benefit? All the subcontractors, all the suppliers. Today, our enterprises go abroad. They're in all parts of the world. Not only the big boys, but even the small boys. So we want to help you. Don't think that an outwardly looking economy is bad for us. All you need is a mindset to take the opportunity. This government wants to help you, not to destroy you. One thing the Sri Lankans are saying, where do we find our monies? So we are now decided to start a new development finance bank, and the government will be a stakeholder. We are asking all the banks to take part. If all the stakeholder banks will run the branches, this will only be a head office and a fund which will be given to the branches.
The benchmark Brent crude prices eased today, pressured by a rise in U.S. crude and gasoline inventories, but remained close to three-year highs. Brent futures fell 10 cents to $69 and 86 cents a barrel, having climbed about $70 this month for the first time since 2014. U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures were up 17 cents at $64 and 64 cents. The American Petroleum Institute said yesterday that the crude inventories rose by 4.8 million barrels in last week, compared with expectations for a decline of 16 million barrels. Let's take you to the stock market now. Sri Lankan shares rose today after two straight sessions of decline, helped by gains in Ceylon tobacco on foreign investor buying. But turnover was low due to lower participation of local retail and institutional investors. The all-share price index ended 0.35% firmer at 6,440.77. Now let's cross over to Imeshi Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange for a detailed picture.
Top 5 gainers of the day were Blue Diamonds, Non-Voting, SNB Leasing, Adam Capital, Black Lanka Finance and Malan Phipps, while the top 5 losers were Associated Motor Finance Company, T Smallholder Factories, Swarna Mahal Financial Services, Singhaputra Finance, Preference Shares and Royal Palms. Today's foreign purchases were 298.92 million rupees and foreign sales were 269.47 million rupees.
The minimum standards on medical education and clinical training will be gazetted on Saturday. Issuing a communiqué, the Government Information Department mentioned the government has proposed a sustainable solution to issues surrounding SITEM. The government proposed that SITEM be abolished by transferring its assets, liabilities, students and staff to a new non-state, not-for-profit degree awarding institution which will have a legally binding sunset clause to cease operations when the last student currently at SITEM has graduated. A separate new non-state not-for-profit degree awarding institution which will have a legally binding sunrise clause will also be established to commence operations in 2019. It was also proposed to ensure that both institutions offer high-quality medical education in accordance with the minimum standards for medical education and training monitored by the Sri Lanka Medical Council. In international news, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi told the World Economic Forum that India is open for business amidst protectionism gaining ground and globalization losing its appeal in a speech some delegates took as a swipe at US President Donald Trump's America First agenda. Modi is leading a big government and business delegation to the summit in Davos, being the first Indian Prime Minister to do so in 21 years.
Indian Premier Narendra Modi, who became the first Indian Prime Minister to address the World Economic Forum annual summit in Davos in 2 decades, did not mention US President Donald Trump by name, but he criticized the rise of protectionism in remarks delivered 3 days before the US President is to address the summit. Delivering the first keynote speech of the WEF 2018, Modi said climate change was a major threat to the world, yet the world had failed to come together to tackle it. Everyone talks about reducing carbon emissions, but there are a few people or countries who back their words with their resources to help developing countries to adopt appropriate technologies. India, one of the world's fastest growing major economies and a growing contributor to pollution, has said it is keen to honor its commitment to clean up the environment despite Trump pulling out of the Paris Accord on cutting carbon emissions. On the sidelines of the summit, thousands of anti-capitalist protesters marched through Zurich today to demonstrate against a planned visit by US President Donald Trump later this week to the WEF annual meeting. Organizers had called for protests under the mottos "Trump not welcome" and "Smash WEF." Trump is due to speak day after tomorrow.
Let's now take a look at some other stories emerging from across the globe.
A double car bombing in the East Libyan city of Benghazi yesterday left at least 22 people dead and 30 wounded, including senior security figures. The first explosion struck outside a mosque in Benghazi's central Al Salmani district as worshippers were leaving evening prayers. And some 10 to 15 minutes later, a second more powerful blast was detonated from a Mercedes parked on the opposite side of the street. Pakistan police yesterday said they had arrested a man suspected to be a serial killer responsible for the rape and murder of 7-year-old girl Zainab Ansari, a case that ignited nationwide protests over allegations of government inaction. Residents of the area have said the murder was the 12th such incident in a year, setting off fears of a serial rapist killer on the loose. 12 prized camels have been disqualified from a beauty contest in Saudi Arabia after their owners tried to tweak their good looks with Botox. Thousands of camels are paraded at the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival to be judged on their shapely lips and humps. But judges stepped in when they discovered some owners had cheated in a bid to win the cash prizes. US Defense Secretary Jim Mattis saw Indonesian troops handle snakes, rolling glass, break bricks with their heads, walk on fire and much more in a rare military demonstration today meant to show off the unique skills of its forces. Perhaps the highlight was a demonstration involving live snakes, which Indonesian forces brought out in bags and scattered on the ground just a few feet away from where Mattis was standing.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Sports now. The 2018 FIFA World Cup trophy arrived in Sri Lanka yesterday and was handed over to President Maithripala Sirisena at the President's House in Colombo in the early hours of today. The 2018 FIFA World Cup trophy is scheduled to visit 91 cities across 51 countries and 6 continents around the globe, giving football fans an opportunity to see the trophy. Now, it is significant that Sri Lanka was chosen as the first destination in its world tour.
Sri Lanka was chosen as the first country out of 51 for the trophy of the Football World Cup 2018 to be brought for public display as part of its world tour. The trophy was handed over to President Maithripala Sirisena in the early hours of today at the President's official residence. Following this, a ceremony to officially accept the trophy was held at the BMICH today under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
This is a momentous occasion for us in Sri Lanka, the unveiling of the FIFA trophy. So I must say thank you both to FIFA, to the Federation, the genuine FIFA trophy. We see this only over TV. So I'd like to say thank you, and I also wish the game all success.
Following the ceremony, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe officially opened the trophy for public display. The 18-carat gold trophy weighing 6.1 kilograms was on display for public viewing from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. today.
On to the Australian Open, where things are heating up as the Open nears its end. The 4 semi-finalists have been decided and we are in for an entertaining 2 days.
Kyle Edmund will try to extend his remarkable Australian Open run and reach a first Grand Slam semi-final when he takes on Marin Cilic tomorrow. The 23-year-old Briton plays Cilic in the Melbourne night session. But he has got his work cut out for him, as his opponent is going to be defending champion Roger Federer, who beat Thomas Burdick in Rod Laver Arena to reach his 14th Australian Open semi-final. Chung and Federer will face each other day after tomorrow.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Well, for the first time tonight, we have Manusha Jayathilaka at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
Good evening and welcome to Forecast First. Now, temperatures will vary between 18 to 31 degrees Celsius over the course of next 24 hours. And as we can see in the map, fairly strong winds of up to 40 kilometers per hour can be expected in Colombo, Jaffna and Hambantota districts. But overall, favorable weather conditions are expected in most provinces of the island. Well, that's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. I'm Mahesh Johnny. First at 9 will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. And before we wrap things up for tonight, we are going to leave you with visuals of our beautiful Sri Lanka, which has now become a destination that attracts hundreds and thousands of tourists annually. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.